We do meetups all around the world. I will give you a bit more information on that in a minute. And the team organizing the event in Barcelona, so we are Adriana, Guido, Gino, Nacho, and myself. We have been doing that for like 7 years now, and it's always a pleasure to share anything about product management with you. So we are in all over the world, actually. So we are of course, in Barcelona, but as you can see, everywhere. It's the biggest product event in the world, and in 220 cities. It's really a meetup by product people, so we are all in product management here, and for product people and anyone interested in products. So we would also welcome any ideas you have, or if some of you want to present something at some point, just contact us or want to host one of these events, just tell us, and we'll be very happy to count on you. So tonight we have a very special guest. If you have been coming to ProductTank in the last years, I'm sure you already know Itamar Gilad. He has been coming like quite a few times already. It's always a pleasure to have him. Itamar, if you don't know him, is like an expert in product management, product strategy, growth. He worked at Google on Gmail, and he's also a coach. So it's, as always, a pleasure to have you here. And I hope you enjoyed the meetup. Thank you.
Thanks, Loic. Hi, everyone. I'm Itamar. Just so I know who you guys are, let's do a show of hands. Who of you have a product management or product ownership type of role? All right, my people. Engineering. Anyone from engineering? There goes all the engineering jokes because of this one guy. We cannot tell them. Design. All right, designers there. Always with the best hats, the best facial hair. Definitely designers. Business. Anyone from business? All right. Respect. There goes other set of good jokes as well. Data. One from data. We have one guy. All right. I don't have any data jokes, so it's okay. User research. Well, design user research we've done. Anyone I didn't include? Something else. What do you do, sir? Coaching. What kind of coaching? Agile coaching. All right. I forgot about this. All right. There we go. Cool. All right, guys. So thank you for coming in the rain. I'm a product manager, actually, by training. I did 15 years of product management. Before that, I was an engineer. And actually, this is the year I switched. I became a product manager in 2001, long time ago. And back then, we still burned bits into a piece of plastic and shipped it physically to people's homes. Web software was just starting. Of course, today, everything is dramatically different. The technology has changed. But also the way we build products has changed in a dramatic way. Back then, there wasn't continuous integration, continuous deployment, user research. Most of the design was like for rich companies, and Agile was just getting started. So we transformed also the way we build products, not just the way we actually use them or the technology we put into them. One thing hasn't changed that much, unfortunately, I have to tell you. It's this thing, the core function of product management, deciding what to build. Back then, what I would do is I will talk to my clients or customers, talk to my stakeholders, my teams. We will lock ourselves in a room and decide what to put in the roadmap. What do we do today? Very different. It's on Zoom. But essentially the same thing. Of course, it's not for a year, it's a quarter. We don't call it a roadmap. That's a little bit out of fashion. Trust me, it's exactly the same thing. We haven't changed the process that much. Maybe because it's good. Maybe we don't need to change. Maybe it's a great process. Is it me or? Yeah. We're out of battery. I can try to shut it. But if we can get a battery for that one, really. All right, 1, 2. We're back. Okay. Would have been good if we didn't have this, but all right. Let's go. Cool. So, where was I? Yeah, we're still road mapping. It's not a great process. How do I know this? Because our plans suck, basically. If you look at your roadmap and you compare it to what you actually done, it's very different. We actually don't follow the roadmaps that much. And maybe that's for the better, because it's really hard to predict what we want to do in the next year or even in the next quarter sometimes. Even worse, even when you try to follow the roadmap, you don't see any major changes in the business or in user or in usage. It's all kind of incrementally continuing with the same trend. So we're pretty bad at predicting what will actually work. So why is that? Because of this. This is the tool we use for making product decisions. Sorry, 1 second, this thing is pulling on my head. I'm going to put it here. You guys can still hear me? All right, cool. Our brains are amazing. It's an amazing tool. It's an amazing thing to process information, to come to quick decisions. It's incredible. However, there's a class of problems that our brains are not designed to handle. Problems that are complex. There's a lot of moving parts. Problems that have a lot of ambiguity. Not everything is clear. Problems where there's too much information or too little information, and when we need to decide quickly. Guess what? A lot of product decisions, excluding road mapping, including the question, which of these 20 or 40 ideas do we need to build, are exactly this class of problems. What happens in this case? Our brains cannot possibly compute all the possibilities, and they should tell us, listen, I don't know. It's impossible to know. Instead, what do our brains tell us? They tell us, I know. It's this idea that you like. And they have a trick up their sleeve to convince us it's not only the best idea, it's the only idea you should do. And that's because of all these cognitive biases. You know, narrow framing, sunk cost fallacy, risk aversion, all of these things kick in and convince us we don't need to think too hard. We already know our intuition, our gut feeling tells us what to do. And that's a major problem because with the political structure in our organizations, you know, with management and hierarchies and consensus and politics and all this can lead to really terrible decisions. Not in your companies, I'm sure you've never seen this happen. In other companies, sometimes they choose the wrong ideas and tell the entire company to just get behind it. What do we do about this? So some of the good news, some of the stuff that happened in the recent years is that we develop better methods of research. We now have user research with researchers and ways to interviews, data analytics, data science, more ways to test the market and to investigate with the internet. We have a lot of information about our competitors. And all of these things contribute to us having access to a lot more evidence, facts and data and test results that either confirm or reject kind of our picture of the world. Help us bring the real world into our brains. And that's great because when you combine our brains with evidence, you supercharge our decision process. You get much better decisions. How do we know this? Because in law, in medicine, and especially in science, they long ago realized you cannot just trust on this. You cannot trust on individuals or groups to make the best decisions. You need to include evidence. And now we can do the same also in product development, finally, in the 2020s. And we have a bunch of methodologies, you know, lean startup, product discovery, design thinking. They all sound different, but they actually share a lot of commonality. And one of them is look at the evidence, change direction based on the evidence, iterate and keep testing, right? So that's good news. So how do we do this? What we want is really what I call evidence-guided development, not evidence-based development, because we're not going to base all our decisions on evidence. That's impossible. Our judgment still plays a very important role. What we want is the evidence to guide us in the right direction. And there are many different methodologies and models. I like this one, which I kind of started conceptualizing while I worked at Google. And later on, I started using with my clients when I became a coach, and now I teach it. And I'm actually writing a book about this. It might actually come this year. So this is called the GIST framework or the GIST model. It basically says, in order to bring evidence into our work, we need to change on 4 major areas: setting goals, choosing ideas, testing our ideas, developing them and testing them, which I call steps, and in the way we manage the work with agile teams and with stakeholders, etc. That's the task layer. So I'm going to walk you guys through each one of those, right? Let's start with goals. So goals basically try to help us define where we want to end up. What's the destination? Where do we want to go, right? But if you go into one of these planning sessions that happen also in your companies, maybe every quarter, and at the end of the year, oh my God, it's even much worse. And you sit on like a fly on the wall and you observe the people discussing, you might observe something interesting. They're not very well aligned. Some of these people really care about short-term revenue. Some of these people care about executing the strategy. Some people care about the experience of the users, and some about product quality. And I'm just listing a few. All of these people are not aligned. They didn't stop to talk about the goals. What are we trying to achieve? What's most important of all of these things? Instead, they're talking about ideas. What should we do? What should we bake into the roadmap? And it's almost impossible to agree on this if you didn't agree on the goals beforehand, right? Because every idea, someone thinks it's a great idea and we must have it. So the debate can be quite long and tiring, and eventually the decision is done by consensus or by politics or by the highest paid person. It's not a great model. Evidence-guided companies, on the other hand, use models. They model the usage of their, the behavior of their users, they model the business, and through these models, they gain an understanding of the priorities. What's more important? What are the most important outcomes? What should we focus on? Where are we underperforming? Let me show you one model that I like, that I feel is broadly applicable to any business. So the core mission of every organization is to do 2 things. One is to deliver value to the market. The market is our users, our customers, our partners. And by delivering value, I mean addressing their needs at a reasonable cost. And in return, we want to get something back. We want to capture value, whether it's revenue or market share or active customers or whatever it is. The product is not the goal. The product is a means to an end. It's a vehicle to deliver value, and it's the reason for the market to pay us back, right? I think we're all product people. We need to know our place. We are just helping this process happen, this yin-yang of product. In order to make sure that your value exchange loop is working, and it's actually self-reinforcing, which is how companies grow, we need to make it measurable. So I like to put metrics on these 2 things. For capturing value, I like to pick one business metric that I call the top KPI, or the top business metric. If you go to your finance team right now, they will show you 50 easily. You know, ARPU and customer retention and that and that. What should we focus on? Everything. Well, in some companies, that's the answer. I think we should pick one. This year is the year where we have to break even. This year is the year where we need to get to 10 million active users. Whatever it is, it doesn't mean that the other metrics are not important. It just means when we need to make trade-offs, we focus on this. And it's tied to our strategy, and it's tied to the mission of the company. Just as important is the North Star metric, which attempts to measure the total amount of value we deliver to the market. That sounds like a very hard thing to quantify or to measure, but it's actually a tool being used in many, many companies. For example, WhatsApp always measured the number of messages sent through WhatsApp. Why? Because every message sent is a little incremental value. It's free, it's rich media, you can send it from anywhere in the world at any time to anyone. If you compare to SMS, that's a lot of value. So if in WhatsApp in year 1, there was, or in year X, there was 1 billion messages sent. In year X plus 1, there are 2 billion. You can roughly say we double the amount of value we created in the market. Similarly, when I was in YouTube, we started measuring minutes watched. Airbnb is measuring number of nights booked. Sorry, I forgot the name of the company, but Amplitude, sorry. The analytics team measures number of learning users, weekly learning users, which are people that found some insight in the tool that was so useful that they shared it with 2 other people. Those are all very good North Star metrics. Once you have your North Star metric, in this case, documents created per month, and your top business metric defined, you can start breaking them into sub-metrics and create what we call metrics trees or metrics graphs. And they will always overlap. You see, these blue ones are actually shared between value delivered and value captured, so they're very important. And we can start assigning some of these metrics to teams and create dashboards and set goals around them. So this is just one way evidence-guided companies guide themselves. It's not about what we feel is the most important, it's what kind of the trees or the metrics tell us. Once we have goals in mind, we have a destination, we need to decide how to get there. And that's the bulk of the discussion. That's really where we tend to talk a lot and to debate a lot. It's really important to understand that just like in real life, when you punch something into a GPS, there's more than one way to get there. There's always more than one idea. And it's actually about evaluating multiple ideas. Where do these ideas come from? Everyone has their favorite way, but it's actually a multitude of ways. So it can come from stakeholders and managers or from the team, customer or user requests, user research, data analysis, hackathon and design sprint, market research, competitive research, tech advancement. We need to be on top of all of this. We need to do continuous research. We need to continuously interview people. We need to continuously look at our competitors. And that's where the ideas come from. We can start using our own products. There's a million ways to do research. I'm not even showing all the list. There isn't just one right way. I highly recommend learning to use all of those. The key point is that we are bombarded with ideas constantly from everywhere. Everyone will tell you what you need to do with your product, and they all think they have a great idea, right? They all expect you to take them very seriously because their idea is necessarily good. They're smart people. However, they are wrong. Most ideas, when they put into A/B testing, and this comes from Ronnie Kochavi, who is a very famous data scientist. He worked at Microsoft, Amazon, Airbnb, he's consulting. The best case scenario is 33% success rate. 1 in 3 ideas generate any measurable improvement. And these are not just random ideas. These are ideas that these companies actually thought will be good. And you can see these are not small companies. These are serious product people. So the key point here is that we are terrible at actually deciding which ideas are good or not, and most ideas are not. And actually this 10 to 15%, I think, is the average in the industry. I don't have exact research, but I think that's what happens with most companies. So what do we do about this? If most ideas are bad and we cannot tell the good ones from the bad ones, what do we do? I think science can give us a hint. And Linus Pauling, a very famous chemist and biochemist, twice Nobel Prize winner, has this very famous saying. If you want to have good ideas, you must have many ideas. Most of them will be wrong, and what you have to learn is which ones to throw away. It sounds almost embarrassingly boring, right? It's just statistics. Just try out more ideas and test them, and you will find good ones. But that's how it works. This is how networks operate. This is how Airbnb, this is how most successful companies actually operate. How does it look? Let's do a little scheme. I'm an ex-engineer. I love these things. So the ideas come. We have this black box, and we have goals that we already defined. What we need to do first is evaluate these ideas really quickly. And I will show you my favorite evaluation technique in a second. And what will be the result of the evaluation? Most ideas will actually get parked. We will determine they are not good enough to look at right now. Let's park them And that's exactly the right thing to do, because you have way too many ideas to handle. The ideas we do think are good, based on our evaluation, which should be objective. It's not a bunch of people sitting in a room and shouting at each other. Should go into validation. What's validation? A bunch of techniques. I will show you many, including doing a model on paper, and including running a usability study, and including running a full beta. Whatever it is, these things generate evidence. And that's really important, because then we can reevaluate our ideas again. And guess what will happen? Most of the ideas we thought were good will turn out to be not so good, and we can park them again. We can take in more ideas if we have capacity, and the good ones will continue for more validation. Until when? Do we need to test them indefinitely? Absolutely not. Depending on the size of the idea or its risk, we should decide at some point, we have good confidence in this thing, let's build it. And then we switch into delivery. We stop testing, we really do the work, the classic project approach, and we launch them. And sometimes during delivery, we discover new things, and that creates even more evidence. And that's good too. And the end result is launches. But what we launch is actually much higher impact than the average. We improve the ratio. It's not just 1 in 10 or 1 in 3. This system usually raises the bar and allows you to launch a lot more high impact features and changes. Let's look at an example. Let's not keep it too academic. Let's assume that you are a product manager. You're working on a platform to allow small business owners to talk to their customers. You know, send them invoices, support them, tell them the opening times, whatever it is. And we have a problem. We have customer churn. The customers are not staying with the product. They're churning. We need ideas how to reduce customer churn. That's the goal. And then someone comes up with this idea, which is brilliant. Let's do a chatbot, right? A chatbot that will help the small business owner to automate communication with their customers, right? A lot of this is repetitive. This person is very busy. The chatbot will take over some of the discussion. Cool. What do we think about this idea? Just show of hands. How many of you think that this is going to be a high impact idea? If you, just based on what I told you, how many of you would build this? Don't be shy. See some people in the back. Why not build it? Most of you are kind of like not raising your hand. Anyone who decided not to build? Yes?
Less information on the case to decide if it's good or not.
Not enough information. It's a chatbot. This person is very busy. Chatbots are very much in fashion now, by the way. I don't know if you will read the news.
And why does the churn happen? How do I know that the client is unsatisfied? Could the chatbot who is available all the time be the solution to that, or is it personal?
Okay. So the point is, where there's a lot of open questions. I'm pretty surprised you're saying this, because as you know, the strategy of the company is to invest in big ideas. This is a big idea. The managers really want the chatbot. So think over your words carefully. There was someone here, yeah.
I think it doesn't achieve the goal, because myself as a customer, if I need to speak to a chatbot instead of a human, I'm more likely to churn, not less likely.
All right, so maybe it will not achieve the goals. It's not clear that this is actually going to contribute to improving customer churn. Someone who likes the idea. Guy with the red hat, sorry. Why do you like it?
Because we need to invest some time in it to get the evidence.
So you're saying let's not build it in full, let's test it. Okay. So the guy in the back is saying, I didn't say let's build it, I said let's test it. This is the sort of typical discussion we have around ideas. We can go in a room, some people hate it, some people like it, some people are let's give it a shot, some people no point in this, and we can spend hours talking to each other. Hours, did I say? Days, weeks, convincing each other with opinions and very little bits of information. So I agree with the people who said here, there's not enough information, but we can do some initial analysis. And you're right, I'm going to use ICE. So here are two components of ICE, impact and ease, chatbot. Do we think it's a high impact idea? Is it going to move the needle? So this is a guesstimate, and usually the product manager should own this guesstimate. Let's say yes, I'm the product manager, I feel it's a great idea, I'm gonna give it a 9. Is it going to be easy to build? Easy is like the opposite of effort. 10 is like the most expensive project you can imagine, 0 or 1 is like really easy. Here it's a good idea to maybe consult with your design lead and your engineering lead. Let's say it's a 3. It's not going to be super easy to build. All right, we have something to work with. That's a start. However, it turns out that we are terrible at making these guesstimates. And in order to compensate for that, we have a third element of ICE called confidence. And it tries to answer the question, how sure are we it's actually going to be a 9 and a 3? Are we pretty sure? How do you answer such a question? It's pretty hard. If you just ask people, they will say, yeah, I'm sure. My confidence is 8 out of 10, really. I've seen this a lot. But I decided, let's try to be a little bit more rigorous about this. So in my opinion, confidence comes from evidence. You need to find evidence that convinces you it's going to be a high impact idea. You need to find evidence to show you that. So in order to help weigh this evidence, and there are many types, I created this colorful tool, which I call the confidence meter. How many of you have seen this thing before? All right, about 30% in Barcelona. I'm doing a terrible job with my social media stuff. It's like, this is terrible. All right. This is like a thermometer. Imagine it's like a thermometer. It goes from very low confidence, which is the blue area. You see it's around 0 here, all the way to high confidence, which is a 10. 10 means we're fully convinced it's a good idea. There's very strong evidence. 0 means very low evidence. So what do we have? In the blue area, we have opinions. Your own self-conviction. You think it's a good idea. You're a very smart person. You had many successes. That gives you 0.01 out of 10. Why is that? Because behind every terrible idea that ever was, there was someone who was convinced it's a good idea. That's just the way it works. Maybe you did a pitch deck, a very shiny document that explains why it's a good idea. It's slightly harder to do. Maybe you'll find some faults. Still very low confidence. Maybe you connected it to a theme, the strategy of the company or the vision. Or maybe, you know, it's about generative machine learning, the Web3, something that is really buzzy right now. Does that make it is this strong evidence? Absolutely no, because there are thousands of terrible ideas being implemented as we speak around these themes. Then we move to this area. You might start reviewing your idea with your colleagues, with experts, with managers, with stakeholders. They might say, yes, great idea, I agree, it's a 9. Or they might say, no, I think it's a terrible idea. Do they know? No, they don't have any sort of crystal ball. However, they might find flaws in the idea you didn't think of. So this is a slightly harder test. It gives you a little bit more confidence, but still very, very low. Estimates and plans. You do some sort of model on paper, you do a funnel, you do a business model canvas, you do some sort of analysis, your team starts analyzing the project, bringing it into its parts, and it confirms that your idea will have that impact and ease. That gives you a little bit more. Now we're moving into data. Data might be anecdotal. Data might come from, you know, your logs, from your data sources, or from customer interviews. So anecdotal evidence is like a few data points indicate that this thing might be a good idea or has the impact they expect. A few data points might be just noise in the dark, and our brains create patterns when they hear noise in the dark. Have you ever seen this pattern where the CEO goes to talk to customers? He talks to, or she talks to 3 customers, the most problematic, and they all say the same thing. The CEO comes back, I cracked it. I know exactly what we need to do in the next 2 years. Does that work? Never. Data could be what I call market data. This is bigger amount of data. You do surveys, you do fake door tests, you do deep analysis of your customer, and that gives you more information. That brings you to medium-low confidence. To go to medium-high and high, you need to test your idea. And there are various forms of tests, as you know. Some are stronger, some are weaker. We can do usability tests, MVPs, A/B experiments, etc. Notice that the very high confidence tests are about 1,000 times stronger than your self-opinion. That's how the tool works. It's kind of non-linear. Let's see how this works. Let's take our idea. So the chatbot, what we want to do is go through each one of these items and ask ourselves whether or not we feel that we have evidence to support it, that it's indeed a 9 and a 3. Self-conviction, yeah, I think it's a great idea. Let's go. Pitch deck, I did it. It's shiny, it's beautiful. Thematic support, that's an interesting one. When I first did this, published this in an article, this was like 4 years ago. Chatbots were in fashion. Then they dipped. They went out of fashion, and now they're in fashion again. Just shows you how unreliable this sort of evidence is. But in this case, yes, chatbots are all the rage now, so yeah, high impact. Other people's opinion. Everyone that I reviewed this with says, yes, this is going to be a 9. Estimate and plans, I haven't done yet, so I cannot give myself. One competitor has a chatbot, so that puts it here in anecdotal evidence. You can say it, one competitor or a few competitors. In many companies, if they think an idea is good and one competitor, usually the leader, has it, that's it. Job done, no more validation required. Let's build the whole thing, but not here. And actually, I don't have any more of this hard evidence here. So my total confidence right now in this idea is 0.79 out of 10, which is really low. So now I have a complete I-score with 9 for impact, 3 for ease, and 0.8. I rounded it up because I'm a nice guy. Confident. Now we can have a discussion, and the decision should be pretty clear. We think it's a good idea, but there's no evidence to support it. So it will be really stupid to start building this thing right now and just go all in, right? What we need to do is test it. And I think some of you guys said that. So how do we do this? We start with the idea, and we actually, instead of building it around engineering milestones, design milestones, we build it around learning milestones. So basically, we give ourselves a chance to learn, and we keep iterating and changing direction and pivoting the idea until, if the idea survives all of this, we end up with a much better idea than we started with, right? But most ideas will not. Most ideas will die along the way. Each one of these mini projects or activities that are usually taking just a few weeks long is what I call a step in the language of GIST. The industry calls this experiment. I don't like the word experiment so much. I think it's not right for everything I propose here. So I called it a step. It also works better for GIST, to create a catchy acronym. So what kind of steps do we have? We have a lot. We have a lot of ways to validate. From the cheapest that are just assessment, you just talk to people or just evaluate the idea in different ways, to fact-finding where you dig up data. And by the way, you have all of this as an ebook you can download from my website for free. You just need to sign up, but take pictures. Tests. You can start with fake door tests. So basically, all of this category of tests is faking the idea before you build it in different ways. Mid-level tests where you build a very rough version of the idea, not complete, not fully polished, not scalable, and you test it. And late-stage tests where it's almost complete and you test it in a much more rigorous way. And then you have what I call experiments, which are A/B or ABN or multivariate tests. And even the release itself can be a test. I mean, you can release to 30% and stop, or you can do a holdback experiment, or you can look at the post-launch at the results. So you have all these ways to validate, and many of them are super cheap. They take minutes or hours. You don't need to go and jump all the way to building an MVP that is basically a beta by different name. What we used to call beta 20 years ago now is MVP. No, it's not. Start here. Always challenge yourself. What is the cheapest thing you can build to validate your assumptions? So let's assume we're choosing one of these steps, a usability test. We're bringing 12 people to test the chatbot in our lab. But we don't want to build a chatbot. It's expensive to build it. How do you simulate a chatbot? How do you fake it?
Human chat.
With a human. You put a human behind the door, pick an intelligent human if you want an intelligent chatbot. And that is called, commonly known in the industry as a fake door test. Wizard of Oz test. You probably are familiar. So we do the Wizard of Oz test with people in our target audience. Of course, we interview them before, we understand if they have the problems we think they have, and then we show it to them and let them use it. And then all sorts of new information comes up. For one thing, it's really hard for them to use. They need to train it, they need to understand how to do the handover. A lot of our customers are not so tech savvy. Second, some of the use cases we have in mind, like telling customers what's today's menu or what are the opening hours, doesn't work for everyone because they keep changing these things. Third, they say, you know, I'm a small business. People expect me to sound personal, and the chatbot doesn't sound very personal. I'm worried it will annoy my customers. So it gives us a lot of new information, and this is real evidence, by the way. When it comes from customer, this is evidence, and we understand this will be applicable to a subset of our users. For those people, it will be good, but for most, it will not. So we started here with 9 and 3, and now we move into a 4. We downgrade impact. We understand this is going to be a much lower impact feature than we expected. We also understand it's going to be less easy to build because of all the usability challenges, but we have a lot more confidence right now. From the tool, we get a 3.8. I will not show you the whole thing, but trust me, it's there. By the way, the confidence meter you can download as well as a spreadsheet from my website. All right, we're almost done. I know you guys are tired of me, but tasks. All of this brilliant planning and, you know, and project structuring around learning will not do anything unless we get on our bicycle and start pedaling. So we need to work, and the tasks are actually the work, the stuff that we do, and guess who's working? Your Agile team. And they manage tasks in Jira or in Kanban boards, or they're Agile. And they like to work in sprints. Sometimes they're fixed. Sometimes they don't allow you to change in the middle of the sprint. I don't know if you encounter this phenomena. And they have their own views of the world. And some of these teams are actually quite disengaged from the reality of the users and the business. Why is that? Because our tendency is to develop products this way. We have a bunch of planners, product managers, stakeholders, managers who are thinking about the strategy and the roadmap and the launches and the business. Guess who's not invited to this party? Yes, these people. They're supposed to do the work, to deliver. So these people, don't talk to these people that often. These people are very busy in, you know, moving tickets to the done state, shipping small increments of code to production, burning through story points. So there's a gap here. They don't trust each other. They don't understand each other. It's a black box, how the plan came to be. Why are we iterating constantly and there's not shipping anything? And the solution is to put a person in the middle to fix everything. That person should connect the dots, make the roadmap happen, create a backlog, inform the team. Easy. Problem solved. Does it work? No, not so much. Is it easy? Is it fun work to do this? Most of the PMs I meet are not so satisfied. They're very busy in planifications and stand-ups and retrospectives and roadmap discussions and OKRs. We just keep giving them more artifacts to generate. What don't they have time to do? To talk to customers, to interview, to run experiments. No time. I have to feed the Agile machine. People might not be 100% capacity utilized. Oh my God, have to run. Let me do an Agile Jira ticket right now. So what do? I think we should change the system. We should train these people that their job is not just the tasks. Their job is to complete steps. A step is a short project. In 5 weeks, we will launch this to 40 users with this set of features. This is your job. And a step is not just launching it, it's also running the experiment, collecting data, analyzing it. They can do it too, absolutely. And by doing this, they are now connected to the fact that the task is connected to a step, and a step is connected to an idea. Maybe it's an idea that they suggested, and that's connected to a goal. And they should be very well aware of the team goals, usually not more than 4 key results per quarter. and they should commit to them. That's their job, to achieve the key results, not to code, not to send. In too many companies I see, these people are just coders or designers, and the success of the product is someone else's problem. On the other side, these people now have much more visibility and understanding what's going on. They should be very involved in defining the goals. They should understand the ideas, but I highly recommend that they will allow each product team to manage its own ideas and to choose which idea to test first using ICE, which means we need to be very transparent about these things. We need to share constantly what our prioritization, and importantly, we need to share the results of our steps. What happened? We talked to customers, we learned that. We ran an A/B experiment, we learned that. What do you think it means? And sometimes they will come back and say, this idea that I was really supportive of, based on the evidence, I think it's not such a good idea. And that's great. You involve them without them holding the wheel and telling you what to do. It builds trust. Trust is a key word here. Without trust, none of this will work. And finally, this person I think will have a much more meaningful job right now. It's not just the administrator of the roadmap, the project management manager of the backlog, you know. This person needs to drive this entire process, needs to drive discovery and delivery, need to find those ideas that will most help the users and the business. So I think it's a much more rewarding job once you do this. I experienced a bit of this in Google, and ever since then, that's what I've been trying to teach product organizations to do. If you're interested in any of this at all, go to my resources page, and you can download pretty much everything you saw here, including this slide deck, as templates and tools and articles, etc. Thank you very much, and questions?